Spring, summer, autumn, winter. Nature has been running the ultimate business strategy for millions of years. Every cycle of growth, harvest, decline, and rest in the same rhythm also mirrors business and powerful stories. Ignore it and you'll burn out. Embrace it and you'll scale. I'm Nigerian. I was born in Fiji in the 90s, late 90s, 1999, basically a 90s kid. And one thing I can tell you is that I still have not fully acclimatized to the Melbourne winter. But one thing I can tell you is that during that March to July period, where it's very, very cold in Melbourne, Australia, because Melbourne's very cold, I know that that is the time of the year in which I need to be working the hardest. Because typically the second quarter of the year for the last nearly 5 years, because I track my behavior every year, I track the different behaviors that I have financially, emotionally, relationship-wise. There are certain times of the year when I tend to get into relationships. There are certain times of the year when I've broken up relationships. There are certain times of the year when I make the most money. You know, up until last year, nearly every year in a row prior to that, I would nearly always make the most money in the fourth quarter of the year, right? Nearly every single year. So this first quarter of the year, the first 3 months, I'd make the second most amount of money. The winter season, go figure, as someone that, you know, is not fully acclimatized to winter, I'd make the least amount of money, even when I would work really, really hard. And then the third quarter of the year, I'd make the third most amount of money. And then the fourth quarter of the year, I'd make the most amount of money. Until last year, that was my pattern for like 4 years in a row. So, you need to understand the seasonality of you, of your being. And shout out to Tony Robbins, because he talks a lot about this, and he talks about how people that are born in certain times of the year, and it's not so much star signs, it's more people that are born at certain times of the year, might be more susceptible to certain types of behaviors, etc. But I dare you to audit the details of your behaviors, not just from the last 3 months or 3 weeks or month, but I'm talking the last 5 years. Start today. Okay, when I look back at the last 12 months, what was I doing? What new decisions was I taking? Was I dating new people? Was I eating weird food? Was I sleeping badly? Okay, and what was the correlative, what were the effects of that behavior at that time? I'll give you an example. At this stage of my life, at 25 years old, nearly 26, and you know, our agency is nearly at the 6-figure-a-month mark, okay? I can tell you for a fact, I am at risk of losing more money by having 6 hours of sleep and waking up at 5 a.m. Monday to Saturday, just for the sake of being like a hustler and waking up and hitting the gym and getting everything done. I would rather wake up at 8:50 a.m., 10 minutes before I'm about to get 100 plus Slack messages and WhatsApp messages, because as if it means that I got better sleep. And the reason is because at the level that I'm at right now, I have studied my behavioral patterns for so long that I understand that when Dami gets good sleep, the accumulative decisions that he makes better suits his team and his people compared to when Dami wakes up, hustles, and for the sake of being super consistent, loses sleep just for the sake of, you know, getting up early and doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Because I found that for me, maybe not for you guys, but for me, when I have not had much sleep consecutively, it impairs the quality and the speed of my decisions. But if I was to work even 10 hours in a day, let's just say 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., and I've done that on really good sleep, that 10 hours will probably be the equivalent to 2 days worth of work compared to if I'd worked on 6 hours of sleep for 14 hours that day, right? But that again was something that I had to study, and I had to burn out, and I had to learn it. There was phases for nearly 3 years in a row where I'd have a detox during winter to curb that dip that I'd have in my performance, okay? And that detox would mean like, you know, no women, no partying, no stimulation from like events and from going out, no music at one point. I didn't listen to music for nearly 3 months. That was very interesting. That was a massive test emotionally to me and psychologically. That was really interesting to me. I'm very grateful for that. But now I've realized in the last 1 to 2 years, it actually doesn't make sense for me to do those detoxes. Those detoxes actually didn't really have a net positive effect on my progress, and it didn't resolve the issue that I'd had when I had that drop off within that second quarter. I know this might sound a little bit, you know, woo-woo, but it's really, really important that you analyze your patterns, because you are you, right? And you're gonna be in your body and have the mind that you have for the whole life for the whole time you're on this earth, right? So it's important that you really learn how to identify the patterns with like a bird's eye view and kind of stepping out of it and looking at it, because otherwise you'll be a slave to your behaviors and your patterns for years and decades to come. And that's a very painful thing. So I'm very fortunate that I started doing that, in my late teens, 19, 20 years old, because now at 25, I'm grateful to say, God willing, this year at least, every quarter has been an increase, not just financially, but psychologically, problem solving wise, I dare say maturity wise, lifestyle wise, but it wasn't always like that. It was 5 years of okay, and now we're kind of a bit more up, but I'm prepared for whatever. But that's because I've been able to acclimatize and understand the behaviors that allow me to perform even when things do drop off. So really important, guys, that you understand the seasons of nature and the seasons of yourself, because if you can unlock that, no matter whatever business model or business strategy you pick, you're going to have a lot better grip over the results that you're capable of, because you have a lot better of a grip of yourself. And ultimately, that's all you can do. Believe in God if you're religious, or trust in the universe if you're not, or trust in however you perceive it as. But the one thing you can control to some extent is yourself. So figure that out.